this morning, of the passing
Morning.
of the
Back
passing.
to Sanhedrin. Jeffrey, you were going to say something.
Sorry, I just heard this morning the passing of Sonia Epstein, Ed Epstein's sister.
Last night I heard.
Did you hear that, Johnny?
Yeah, Esther rang me last night. She's
So we'll dedicate the shiur to her memory.
That's very nice.
Do you know her name? You know her Hebrew name?
I don't. I'm trying to think.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu will know it. Sonia Epstein.
That was a maiden name. I didn't know a married name. I just remember.
So we'll dedicate our learning to her memory. Okay, let's get back to Sanhedrin. Michael Kraus, I set you some homework. Well, you set yourself some homework, really.
Me and my big mouth.
Yeah. Do you remember what the homework was?
Horses in Egypt, were they one thing or two separate things?
Yes, that's right. The homework was this. Let's just go straight to the Pasuk, our famous Pasuk. Let me just get it up on the screen for you.
17:16.
Indeed. There it is on the screen in 1 second. There you go. Right. Now then. Let's go from Jeffrey on the screen, please. Verse 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. 15 to 19, please.
You shall set a king over you, one whom the Lord your God chooses from among your brothers. You shall set a king over yourself. You shall not appoint a foreigner over yourself, one who is not your brother. Only he may not acquire many horses for himself, so that he will not bring the people back to Egypt in order to acquire many horses. For the Lord said to you, you shall not return that way any more. And he shall not take many wives for himself, and his heart must not turn away, and he shall not acquire much silver and gold for himself. And it will be when he sits upon his royal throne that he shall write for himself 2 copies of this Torah on a scroll from that Torah which is before the Levitic Kohanim. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, so that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this Torah and these statutes to perform them.
Okay, so what is it? 1, 2, 3, 5 psukim is basically what our Gemarah is about. Our Mishnah and our Gemarah that we're talking about now. So our question from last week was, verse 16 says, he may not acquire many horses for himself, so that he will not bring the people back to Egypt in order to acquire many horses. So it seems from the Pasuk that well, at least it seems from the translation that the two things are connected, i.e. getting horses and going back to Egypt. The way that it's phrased on the translation is phrased seems to me to link the two. He may not acquire many horses for himself, so that he will not bring the people back to Egypt. Has anybody got another translation handy? Anyone got another translation handy? Michael, have you got your living Torah by any chance? No.
No, it's not available. I've got another one. It's 17. What number is it?
17:16. Yeah.
17:16. It's a set.
You have a look at that while I'll carry on talking while you're looking. Now, if you look at the Hebrew, Rak lo yarbe lo susim. Only he shall not increase for himself horses. Ve lo yashiv et ha'am Mitzrayma lama'an harbot sus. And he shall not bring the people back to Egypt to acquire many horses. There's a ve there. Ve means and. Yeah. So I'm not sure that verse 16 translation on our screen is entirely accurate. Michael, what do you have for us?
But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt.
So now that's a better translation, isn't it? What book is that? What are you reading
this
from?
is a slightly non-kosher book, so
A
but it's got a
non-kosher
very
book.
accurate translation.
What production is it?
It's some charity in I think in north of London that produces holy books for various religions, but uses an accurate translation. And this is actually the whole of it, including Divrei Hamim as well. So it's just useful to look at it.
Very interesting, because that's a very good translation. Just by the way, this isn't a complete aside, but I found it fascinating. Talking about unholy or holy books. A couple of weeks ago, I was up in the north at my children's house for Shabbat. And we decided that because of the timings and what have you, that we would daven Kabbalat Shabbat at home. So I asked for a Siddur, and my daughter-in-law brought me her Siddur, which was the American Conservative Association. Her family used to daven in a conservative shul, and she had this Siddur that was given to her for her bat mitzvah by the American Conservative shul. And it was fascinating, in as much as it was exactly the same as the Singer's Prayer Book. There was nothing added and nothing, not true. Almost nothing changed. The only thing that was changed was the bracha in the morning, that the woman's, where we say, Shelo Asani Isha, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for not making him a woman. That was taken out and replaced with, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for making us as we are. But other than that, every single thing in that Siddur was exactly the same as the United Synagogue standard prayer book, which I thought was very interesting, actually. As I thought, I'm not davening out of this conservative thing. Half of it will be missing out. Well, it just shows you what I know, because actually it was spot on and it was beautifully produced and it was lovely, and I used it. That's just as a by the way. Right. So I like your charity translation there, Michael, because what it does is it's faithful to the Hebrew, because the Hebrew seems to imply that they are two separate issues, not one as a result of the other, which is what our translation is. Now, what difference does it make? Why am I being so stupidly pedantic here, Michael?
But it's whether you can purchase horses from anywhere or only not from Egypt.
Yeah, is this prohibition against having a lot of horses only so that we don't go back to Egypt? Because there's a halakha that says we shouldn't go back to Egypt because that's not where we got released from there. So, so you might think, well, I'll get my horses from Saudi Arabia, Arabian steeds, right? And I'll be all right. And I'll have as many as I want. And let's just read 17, please, Jeffrey, on the screen.
And he shall not take many wives for himself, and his heart must not turn away. And he shall not acquire much silver and gold for himself.
Stop there. Now, on the same track, he shall not take many wives for himself, and his heart must not turn away. Now, if you remember a couple of pages ago in the Gemarah, which is a long time ago for us because we go so slowly, but if you remember, we had a discussion about this, about whether you could take many wives for yourself as long as they didn't turn your heart away. In other words, this Pasuk 17 could also be interpreted as being restriction only for rotten wives. Don't take a wife that will turn your head away from yourself. And if you remember, the Gemarah said, well, even one wife that will turn your head away is no good, is it? I mean, I won't ask anybody to give me any personal testimony on this, but, what you will not take many wives and your heart won't be turned away. Well, the Gemarah did discuss this. And there was one opinion that said, as long as the wives are as good as Abigail, then you're all right. And there was another opinion that said, no, even if they're as good as Abigail, don't take too many of them. So you can see that the Gemarah is very pedantic about the language. And when it comes to the horses, what did your research tell you, Michael?
Well, the interpretation was that there were two restrictions. The king should have not too many horses, and secondly, he should not cause the people to return to Egypt to get more horses. And they quote the Rambam from Mishnah Torah Hilchas Malachim 3:3, which says, he may not accumulate many horses, only what is necessary for his cavalry. It is even forbidden for him to have one additional horse to run before him, as is customarily done by other kings. If he adds an additional horse, he is to be lashed. And that's from the Rambam.
Okay, there's the Rambam on the screen for you. Can you see it? It's just loading. Can you see it?
And Rabbi Steinsaltz agrees with Michael.
Okay, there is the Rambam. There is the Rambam in front of you. Velo yarbe lo susim ela kedei merkavto. He may not accumulate many horses, only what is necessary for his cavalry. Afilu sus echad panui liot ratz lefanav kederech sheosin sha'ar hamalachim asur. It is even forbidden for him to have one additional horse to run before him, as is customarily done by other kings. In other words, the what do they call it? The motorcade. The
escort. It's an escort.
Yeah. The motorcade that all the Kanakas have that they go. Yeah, and we said it last week, didn't we? It didn't do John Kennedy much good in Texas, all those things, did it? So even that you're not allowed to have. If he adds im hosif loke, if he adds an additional horse, he is to be lashed. So thank you, Michael. Well done. Well researched. Rambam is always a good one to quote. Right. So let's go back to our Gemarah, our Mishnah. So that was the pasuk that we were talking about. The question that we set ourselves last week was, is the prohibition against horses just against horses from Egypt? And the answer is no, it's not. Why? Because the prohibition against horses is, as the Rambam has said, not to make yourself into a big knacker, right? Even if you're the king, and there's a tension here, there's a balance to be had, because we do know, don't we, that we have to give honor to the king. If a king walks in, you have to stand up. If you see a king, there's a special bracha to say for the king or the queen. And we do have to give kavod to kings and queens. But that's for us to give the kavod to the king and the queen, not for the king to chap and fress the kavod for himself, right? There's a big distinction. Can you understand that distinction? We have to honor the king and the rabbi, but the rabbi and the king should not be chapping the kavod for himself. And that comes from these psukim. Yes, Jeffrey?
So would it not be, horses are used for chariots, and would the king not have an army, and would it not be sensible for him to have horses to pull the chariots to allow his officers to move faster?
That's exactly what the Gemarah says. And in fact, if we go back to the Rambam, okay, have a look at the Rambam on the screen here. Read it for us, Jeffrey, in English.
Oh yeah, he may not accumulate many horses, only for what is necessary for his cavalry. It is even forbidden for him to have one additional horse to run before him, as is customary done by other kings.
So what's forbidden is the pomp and ceremony.
Yeah.
absolutely, he needs to have horses to pull his cavalry. He needs to have horses for his horsemen. That was Michael's other question from last week. What about the horsemen? And it's included in that. Yes, he needs that. He needs the horses that he needs for his army to look after the people. But what's forbidden is these additional horses. So, for example, when you have the trooping of the colour, anyone been to the trooping of the colour ever in London?
Yeah.
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 I've never been in person, but I've watched it on the telly. It's all very
Pomp and ceremony.
pomp and ceremony. There's nobody that does pomp and ceremony better than the Brits. That is completely forbidden, according to the Rambam, for a Jewish king anyway. All that pomp and ceremony with horses and golden carriages and all that stuff with the guys with the big strammels on, you know, the things, right? All that stuff, you can't. It's not allowed. Mefurish in the Torah. Here we go. We've got it there, straight in front of you. That's verse 16 of chapter 17, as interpreted by the Rambam.
They're not giving cover to the king now. They're giving cover to the colour.
The colour represents the king. The king's hat in the cupboard, right? The king's sat there in his golden carriage, waving his hand, right, with all the pomp and ceremony. According to the Rambam's interpretation of this pasuk, in a Jewish king in Eretz Israel, that would not be permitted. You will not find a trooping of the colour that went on with King David. Now, why did I say you wouldn't find it with King David?
King Solomon.
Because King Solomon did it, right? And he fell foul of all three of these. He had too many horses, he had too many wives, and he had too much money. We're going to come to the money in a minute. Just to go to the wives for a minute, Shlomo HaMelech actually said, I don't need to worry about this business with too many wives because I am so clever, I am so wise that my heart will not be turned away by all these wives. He wasn't so clever after all, was he? Because that's exactly what happened. He made all these political alliances, which involved him not only marrying hundreds and hundreds of women, but they were non-Jewish women at that. They were Egyptians and Assyrians and all sorts, right? For political expediency. And what happened? We're told Mefurash what happened in Melachim. Shlomo had his heart turned away and there was idol worship going on, which is why when you read Melachim, it's, again, I think we've mentioned this before, I find it very odd. The more I learn Tanakh, the more I find it odd that some names are very popular amongst Jewish people. Shimshon, we've mentioned before. Shimshon was a bit of a shlechter. He married out several times. He was violent. He was gratuitously violent. You wouldn't consider him to be a paragon of virtue. And yet we use the name Shimshon. Shlomo HaMelech had only 3 things to do as a king, and he failed on all of them. It's strange, but there you go.
So, Johnny, if he was so
Yes,
bad,
Jackie.
if he was so bad, why was he allowed to build a temple?
Well, it's a good question. I think when he built the temple, he had not yet failed.
Okay.
You could ask the same question about Shaul. If he was that bad, why did he get to be king in the first place? Because he had great potential, which he didn't fulfill. And I think you could probably say the same about Shlomo. He didn't fulfill his potential, or he failed in certain things, let's put it that way, which is disappointing.
Well, the punishment was later on when when the kingdom split because of what he'd done, presumably.
Right. Well, let's move on to that now, Michael, because that's a good intro into the next little piece of the Mishnah. Let's go back to the Mishnah. What we did last week was Lo Yarba Lo Susim. We talked about the horses, Ela Kadei Merkavto, only for his cavalry. Next bit of the Gemarah. This is new stuff now. V'chesev v'zahav lo yarba lo ma'od. Neither shall he greatly accumulate silver and gold for himself. Okay, now we said that in the Pasuk. Now the Mishnah tells us a little bit more than the Pasuk says. Let's just look at the Pasuk one more time. Pasuk says, where is it? Here. All it says is, "You shall not acquire much silver and gold for himself." And like the wives and like the horses, it doesn't say how much is too much. So we need the rabbis to tell us what is too much, right? I mean, these are open-ended statements, aren't they? Don't acquire much silver and gold. What does that mean? So the Mishnah, which is what the Mishnah and the Gemarah is all about, it's about explaining the Torah. The Mishnah comes along and says, I'll tell you what it means. It means, well, what does the horses mean? It means only as much as he needs for his cavalry. What does the kesef and zahav, silver and gold, mean? You shouldn't have too much. Ella kedei litein aspanya. Now, without looking in the translation or the notes, has anybody ever heard of that word aspanya?
Sounds like Spain.
It does sound like Spain. You're right. Struggling to think of a connection. Aspanya. It comes from the Greek word. Okay, it comes from the Greek ospanios or osponios, which means a stipend, and it means a soldier's salary. Okay, so the amount of money he's allowed to accumulate it's consistent with the first part of the Mishnah. Mishnah said, first part of the Mishnah says you can have as many horses as you need for the cavalry, and the next bit says you can have as much money as you need to pay your army. Okay, to pay your army. Now, aspanya is not a Hebrew word. You can see that. It doesn't sound like a Hebrew word. It comes from the Greek. Now, I was fascinated by this, and so I asked ChatGPT whether there were any connections in the English language from this Greek word osponios. It just struck me that there must be some old-fashioned English word that meant soldier's salary. And guess what? I was right. Look at this. It's on the screen for you. I just asked ChatGPT this. Is there any English word derived from opsonion, Greek for stipend? And he says yes, though it's not very direct. The Greek word opsonion, meaning ration, stipend, or soldier's pay, is the ancestor of the English word opsony, an old and now obsolete term for provisions or wages in food. How fascinating is that? That there is an, I don't know. I just knew it in my bones that there would be an old English word somewhere based on that word. It just struck me as being interesting. Anyway,
did you check that they weren't making it up?
I didn't know. I didn't check that they weren't making it up on this occasion because they don't normally make stuff like that up. What they make up is sources. When it'll, for instance, if you're a lawyer, don't ever use it because you can get struck off. There's a guy in Australia got struck off last week for citing cases of case law via ChatGPT that didn't exist, and he didn't bother to check, and he got struck off.
There was the same in an Israel case. A judge told a lawyer off for using ChatGPT. What he was saying was absolute rubbish.
Yeah, so you've got to be careful. I use ChatGPT in my work for summarizing stuff. It's very useful for writing nice summaries of cases, but I give it the cases to summarize. I don't trust it to find them for myself because I've checked it a few times. I've asked him to do it, and I would say at least half the time it's not accurate. I mean, sometimes it's plain made up, doesn't exist at all, and other times it's just not accurate, so you can't rely on it. But I didn't check this. But
Rob Stein, I'll tell you should read it Afsanya instead of Aspanya.
Yeah, which makes sense because
it makes sense then. It comes to the
Greek word has the P before the S.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just my obsession with language. I thought I'd share that with you.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Aspania, you just know that isn't a Hebrew word. So bottom line is, how much money is a king allowed to have? As much as he needs to pay his soldiers. Well, he needs more than that, doesn't he? Because he's got to pay other things as well as the soldiers. And so what this means is, it means that, look at the pasuk. It's telling you to go back to the pasuk. Where's our pasuk? There. Read our pasuk 17, please. Jeffrey.
Sorry.
Jeffrey's nodded off there. Verse 17 on the screen,
And
Jeffrey.
he shall not take many wives for himself, and his heart must not turn away, and he shall not acquire much silver and gold for himself.
What was the last word you just said?
For himself.
For himself. And in the Hebrew, there it is. Lo, with a vav. So he's not allowed to acquire much silver and gold for
himself.
For himself.
He's allowed
to acquire gold and silver for
the missus.
For his wife. I'm not going there, Johnny. I'm not going to be tempted into that. You're not going to bait me with that one. No, not for his wife. But he is allowed to acquire much silver and gold for the country, for the state, right? Into the state coffers. Let's have a look at the Rambam that Michael quoted earlier on.
Hold it, just going back a second. So when we talk about Solomon breaking all the three rules, did he actually break the silver and gold rule, or was all that gold and silver actually for the state as opposed to himself?
Good question. Let's have a look at what the Rambam says first before we answer the question. And it may become apparent from the Rambam. There is the Rambam on the screen for you. If we just go to this Mishnah over here, I'll read the Hebrew for you in a moment. But Jeffrey, if you could read the English on the screen for us.
He may not amass silver and gold to keep in his personal treasury in order to boost his pride or allow him to glorify himself.
Stop there for a sec. Stop there. He may not amass silver and gold to keep in his personal treasury in order to boost his pride or allow him to glorify himself. Now, you couldn't get much clearer than that in the Rambam, could you? He's not allowed to accumulate money for himself. And why does he accumulate money? So that he can glorify himself, you know, be a big knacker, like we said before. Carry on, Jeffrey.
Rather, he may collect only what is necessary to pay his soldiers, servants, and attendants.
Stop there. That's the Aspania or Afsania. Okay, that's the pay for his soldiers, servants, and attendants. Carry on.
Any gold and silver which he does accumulate should be given to the temple treasury to be kept there in readiness for the needs of the community and their wars.
Stop there. So, of course, the state has to have money in reserve, right? Otherwise, when something comes along, it's only like a house. You know, if you don't have anything in reserve and your boiler breaks, you're in stock, aren't you? Because you can't afford to replace the boiler. So you have a bit of reserve, hopefully, and you're able to do it when something unexpected comes along. The equivalent in the country is when a war comes along, or a famine, or a natural disaster like an earthquake, God forbid. You need to have money in reserve, and that is perfectly acceptable. Not only is it acceptable, it's a responsibility of a king to do such a thing. Right, and that's what the next bit of the Rambam says. Sorry, I'm just, there you go, Jeffrey. Next bit, it is a mitzvah.
It's a mitzvah to accumulate such treasure stores. The prohibition is only against amassing personal wealth in his own treasure houses, as Devarim 17:17 states. He shall not amass for himself. Should he amass personal wealth, he is to be lashed.
So the Rambam is very clear on how we interpret our pasuk. It is personal wealth. Now, go on, Michael. What have you got for us there?
No, it's word for word from what he just said.
Right. So now you asked me about Shlomo HaMelech. Did he, excuse me, did he fail in that, or did he get his money and give it to the treasury? What did he do with it? Now then, I read somewhere, and it may have been here in the art scroll. Just give me a sec.
Where did he get the money from? It's only from taxing the people.
Exactly.
But it's where it went that's the important thing.
It's what he did with the tax money.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. I definitely read something about that, about the taxation thing. Can't remember now exactly where I read it, but basically...
Was it he who built the palace?
David built a palace.
So it wasn't... right, it's David, right. Okay.
David built the palace, and then he wanted to build the Bet Mikdash, because he said, look, I'm living in a palace.
Right.
Not fair. Kadosh Baruch Hu's living in a tent. Shlomo taxed the people very heavily. Why? What did he need tax money for?
Build the temple.
Building the temple, yeah, building the temple. Now, when he died, his son Yeravam Rechavam came along, and the people came to him and said, "I think you should ease off the tax burden because it'll make you very much more popular." Right? There's nothing more popular for a government than slashing income tax, right? Nothing less popular than increasing the taxation burden. You need to, the people have had a tough time under your father. And what did the new king say?
Get stuffed.
More or less, yeah. More or less. He said, get stuffed.
Will increase it.
He says, I'm going to increase the tax. And he increased the tax. And what happened, Michael?
The kingdom split.
Kingdom split. The people said, not having it. Civil disobedience, right? The farmers went on, rioting in the streets, and they said, that's it, we're off. And the kingdom split.
Nigel Farage.
So, Ein Chadash Tachat HaShemesh. So, the question remains, what did Shlomo do with all that tax money? Now, on the face of it, he used all that tax money to build the Bet Mikdash. But it seems that the rabbis are critical of Shlomo in that he also accumulated great personal wealth, presumably from the taxes, or possibly from his political alliances, tributes that were paid by his vassals. Remember, David and Solomon. Remember, if those of you who have been learning Tanakh with us, if you try and picture that map that I showed you as to how far David's kingdom stretched, see if I can find it for you right now. Hang on. Let me see if I can find it.
Have you corrected it yet?
No, I haven't. It still doesn't show Lebanon. Yeah, let me just Shmuel Bet. Let's see if I can find it on here. It should be on here. Map. There we go. Okay. There you go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, so that is the map of David's, almost the correct map of David's, the extent of David's kingdom. Jerusalem is his base. He went west into the Philistine area, Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, etc. North into Tyre, that's the bit I need to add on, into Lebanon. Northeast to Syria, this is Damascus, all the way to Damascus. He went east into Jordan. Amman is over here. He went southeast to Moab, which is central Jordan, and further southeast into the Negev and Jordan, Edom. So all of these places that he conquered will have paid tribute to him. What does that mean? When we say I pay tribute to you in modern English, what do I mean? If I say I pay tribute to you?
Taxes.
No, not in modern English, it doesn't.
That means glory.
Yeah, if I say I want to pay tribute to all the Kiddush ladies who work so hard to put out the Kiddush every
Give
Shabbat.
thanks.
Thank you.
It means you praise them, you give them
Praise them.
honor, you give them praise. That's what it means. But the original meaning of to pay a tribute, why do we see I use the word pay a tribute to mean praise? I should have say a tribute. No, because the original meaning of paying a tribute is basically protection money, if we really want to boil it down, right? So Aram Zobah or Aram Damasek in Damascus will have paid a tribute to David and Solomon in order that they should look after them. That's what you do when you're a vassal state. We were a vassal state of the Romans for so long, and the Greeks before them. And we had to go and pay tribute. Jews have always had to pay tribute, right? When we were innkeepers that we spoke about as well last week, innkeepers, we had to pay a tribute to the Porits, didn't we? We had to pay taxes. It's just another way of saying taxes. So the original meaning of the English expression to pay a tribute is to pay money to the boss, right?
Is it to the boss or is it actually to the states?
Well, it's the same thing because they were dictatorships.
Well, it's not
Michael.
here, because here we're talking about Shlomo and his riches. Now, if the tributes were paid into the treasury, then it would be fine. But if it was paid personally to him, then it would be a problem.
You're right. You're right, of course. And human nature is such that kings are rich. How many poor kings do you know, Michael? Right. So I dare say it was the same in those days. They would have taken the tribute. Yes, of course, the tribute was meant to go into the treasury. And that's what the Rambam's telling us, isn't it? That's exactly what the Pasuk is telling us and what the Rambam is telling us. Let's go and have another look at the Rambam. There it is, right? Any gold and silver which he does accumulate, I'll add some brackets here, via tribute from his vassal states, should be given to the temple treasury to be kept there. It's a mitzvah to accumulate such treasure stores. The prohibition is only against amassing personal wealth in his own treasure house. And what happens if he does do that?
Lashes.
So the temptation is, of course, for the king to get his hands sticky in the till of the treasury. He was not the first to do it, no doubt, and it wasn't the last.
Was anyone ever lashed then?
Well, who would do the lashing?
I don't know.
The Kohanim.
No, not the Kohanim.
Take to court to the Sanhedrin.
Yeah, the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin would impose a lashing on him. Now
So the king would see them right then.
It's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. It's a problem because we did a Mishnah, didn't we? What did our last Mishnah say?
Only one person was ever killed or something.
Let's go back. Let's go back and have a look at the previous Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Oh, there we go. No, not that Mishnah. The Mishnah before that. No, not even that one. Must be before that.
It's only very rare for them to put the lashing or the death penalty on people, isn't it? No.
Okay, here we go. We said that a king, I think it was in this Mishnah, or this might have been about the high priest. Here we go. I found it. There we go. It's on the screen for you there. It is in the Mishnah at the beginning of the second Perek. We did it many, many, many months ago. Hamelech lo dan velo daninoto. The king does not judge, and others do not judge him. So your question about who does the lashes is a very good question, Johnny.
Yeah.
Because if you're not allowed to judge him, how are you gonna punish him? A good question. It's a good question.
So what was the point of saying that he gets lashes if there's no possibility of him getting them?
Well, there must be a possibility. We need to square the two, right? We need to ask the Rambam somehow or other. I can't do it off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up later. The Rambam knew this Mishnah. Let's put it that way. Okay. The Rambam knew this Mishnah that says the king is not judged. There must be a whatchamacallit. There must be a qualification of that law that says he can be judged in certain circumstances. Let's have a look what Steinsaltz says, if he helps us, because he often quotes the Rambam. Let's have a look. The king does not judge. He is not judged. He does not testify. And testimony against him is not heard in court. The sages issued these decrees with regard to the kings of the northern kingdom of Israel, since they were found to be disobedient of Torah law and likely to commit more egregious, whatever that means, crimes, if not given this royal prerogative. By contrast, kings of the Davidic dynasty, i.e. Shlomo HaMelech, are eligible to judge and to be judged, but they're not appointed to the Sanhedrin. There you go. We must be talking here about, in our Mishnah, we must be talking about King Davidic kings, because they are allowed to be judged. Let's go to the Rambam. It quotes chapter 3, which is the one we're in. Let's go 3:7. Let's go back to the Rambam. There it is. 7. There we go. Jeffrey, read that for us, please.
We have already explained that the kings of the Davidic dynasty may be judged and testimony may be given against them. However, in regard to the other kings of Israel, the sages decreed that they neither sit in judgment or be judged. They may not give testimony, nor is testimony given against them. This is because they are arrogant, and the matter may cause a tragedy and loss to the faith.
Okay, very interesting. All right. So the lashes will be not necessarily given by the Sanhedrin. There was a lasher. There was a chap like, the executioner appointed by the Sanhedrin to do the lashes, but it comes from the Sanhedrin. Good question. Good question. Right. Let's go back to our Mishnah now, back to where we're up to, page 125 there. There we go. So we know how much money he can have. He can have enough money to pay his soldiers, his attendants, and to accumulate in the royal treasury, the state treasury, money for a rainy day. Let's put it that way.
So how did he pay for his 1,000 wives and their servants?
Well, that's how we probably know that he accumulated himself too much money, or he appropriated the money from the treasury to pay for his wives and their various habits. Ein chadash tachat hashemesh. That's part of the temptation of being in power, isn't it? To corrupt, to be corrupt. Who said it? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Oh, the Deputy Prime Minister, ex-Deputy Prime Minister of the UK.
Yes. Did she say that?
No, but she did that sort of stuff.
Right. Yes. Yes. As you say, the X. Right. So that's the next bit of the Mishnah. Let's do the next few lines. What else has he got to do? Well, let's go back to the Pasuk and it'll tell us what it's got to do. So no wife, not too many wives, not too much money. Next one, verse 18, Jeffrey.
And it will be when he sits upon his royal throne that he shall write for himself 2 copies of this Torah on a scroll from that Torah which is before the Levitic Kohanim.
Stop there. And that's a funny expression, that before the Levitic Kohanim.
Is that a
But
different Torah than our Torah they're talking about? Is that a special Torah?
No. No. No.
Or
If
is
you
it
look
that
at the,
Torah which
I
is
don't know. It's a funny translation. Let's translate it. Well, okay. Let's go to Michael's charity translation. What have you got there, Michael? Before we go, before I translate it and give you the Lieberman translation from the Hebrew.
And he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priests and Levites.
That's a much better translation. Much better translation. Who's got a Steinsaltz Chumash handy?
No.
I have. Hang on. Let me have a look. Let
Johnny,
me see. Yeah.
I was taught that he has to write only a certain section of the Torah. It's not the whole Torah. It's just a certain section that alludes to kings.
Okay. Where did you learn that?
Oh, many years ago. I don't know. I'm getting old.
Okay. Well, you may be right. There may be an opinion that says that. Let me read you the Steinsaltz. In addition to the special prohibitions that apply to a king, there is also a positive commandment that he is obligated to perform. It shall be upon his sitting on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself a copy of this Torah in a scroll from that which is before the priests, the Levites. And then he adds in, and this is the important bit, who are in possession of the original text of the Torah. Now, that is a much better translation than what we've got on the screen, which is confusing because whoever asked the question, have we got a different Torah, is a fair question from that translation because that's what it sounds like, but it's not, of course. The Kohanim and the Leviim were the people that worked where?
In the temple.
In the temple. Where was the original text of the Torah kept?
In the ark.
In the temple. So if you wanted to copy the Torah and you didn't have Sepharia to help you, right? Or you didn't have a Chumash to copy out of, well, what would you do?
From the original.
You'd have to go to the original, wouldn't you? And how would you get that original, Michael?
You would ask the Kohanim and the Levites to lend you the copy, or you would go in there and do it there.
Correct. And that's why it's mentioning the Kohanim and the Leviim here. I don't think there's anything sinister. It's just a poor translation. Now, let's look at the Hebrew.
I think the problem is a copy of a copy. It's like whispers. When everybody whispers to the person next to them, it changes as time goes on if you're not careful.
Yes, and that's why the king has to go and copy the original.
Johnny, following what I said, would it make more sense if he went and just read out what was on the 2 tablets, the 10 Commandments?
Why? What about the other 603 mitzvot?
I know, but that would make it, I mean, for him to start writing out, it's going to take him a year and a mitzvah.
All right, I'll come to that in a second. What did you say, Michael? I've lost my train of thought now. What were you saying then?
So I've lost my train of thought.
Copy of a copy.
Copy of a copy, yeah.
So I think it's a very good point, that copy of a copy. And that's why, I mean, he could have just said, when he becomes king, he's got to write a copy of this Torah. End of. But the Torah goes out of its way to say, no, go to the Torah, which is in front of the Kohanim and the Leviim. In other words, go to
The original.
the original. Because of what you said, Chinese whispers. Let me tell you what happened just yesterday. When we had the hall decorated a long time ago, good few months, maybe even more than a year ago, we took down all the plaques so that we could paint them. And in taking them down, the workers were not very careful, right? And they're all a bit of a mess. And it's been waiting for a long time for somebody to go and get new ones made. Anyway, cut a long story short, I decided I won't wait any longer for anybody else to do it. And I took them in. Actually, Jonathan Raymond did it for me. He took them in to the place to be copied, right? To the engraving place. Now, bearing in mind that this engraving place is an engraving place, and that's what it does all day long. And it ain't rocket science. All they had to do was copy what was in front of them. So they went and did it, and they sent me proofs. How many mistakes do you think I found
Quite a few.
A lot. And I may even have missed some because, you know, I just proofread it as best I could. So if you copy from a copy from a copy from a copy, you're going to end up with Chinese whispers.
You've got the same problem with. Haven't you got the same problem with the Torah as well? If you look in the loads of Chumoshim, there are different. There are variations, and they've got things in brackets because it was a copy of the copy.
So there is what's called the Masoretic text. Do you know what that means? The Masoretic text. What's the root of that word? First of all, what is it? What is the Masoretic text, and what's the root of the word?
Sounds Catholic to me.
Well, that's why you would be wrong, Michael. Okay, let me try and help you out. How do you say traditional in Hebrew?
Wrong.
Okay, I'll try again. How would you what is the name of the conservative movement in England?
Masorti.
Masorti.
Yeah.
Masorti. And what does the word Masorti mean, Michael? Well, have a guess.
Traditional.
Given the question I just asked you, it would be a fair guess to say it means traditional. It does. The Hebrew word for traditional is masorti. So in Israel, we love to categorize people. We have charedim, we have chardal, which is a combination of charedi and dal, dati leumi, national religious. So you've got charedi, chardal, dati leumi, which is national religious. Then you have masorti, traditional, and then you have chiloni, secular, right? That's your spectrum across the religious spectrum in Israel. So Masorti means traditional. So what is the Masoretic text?
The original or traditional?
Yes, the traditional text. What's ironic is the Masoretic text is the text, the name of the text that we give to what Moshe Rabbeinu got. And the irony is that word Masorti has been hijacked by less traditional people, if you like. Now, why is okay? Let's go back a stage. What does the word conservative mean with a small c in English?
Right.
If you say If you say I'm very conservative in my dress, what does it mean?
Traditional again.
Traditional. The word conservative means traditional. Now, if you think about the religious spectrum, let's use America as an example. You have the conservative. How would you describe the conservative movement, Michael?
It's the equivalent of Masorti, except it's a little bit more liberal.
Liberal.
Okay, so a bit more liberal, okay, which is the opposite of conservative, right? Now, it's a bit strange, isn't it? The American conservative movement is more liberal than the Orthodox movement. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay. So why is it called conservative then?
It's conservative with a big C.
No, it's not. Well, it is conservative. But why did they choose that word conservative? What does the word conservative mean? It means to conserve. What does conserve mean?
Keep the same.
Keep the same. Well, has the conservative movement kept the same?
No.
So why is it called conservative then?
To fool people.
No, it's not to fool people. Okay, again, I'm trying to expand your minds here, right? We've got a spectrum: Orthodox, conservative, and then
Masorti.
no, conservatism of
Fully.
No, in America, we've got
Reform.
Reform. Thank you, Reform. So compared to Orthodox, conservative is liberal. But compared to Reform, conservative is
Orthodox.
is conservative,
Yeah.
right? It's traditional compared to Reform. So this is how it worked. Prior to the introduction of Reform, we had one term, which was
Orthodox.
no such word. Prior to the introduction of Reform, we had Jewish. Right?
It's like the Sephardi, the Sephardim have only got one.
Ashkenaz and Sephardim, that's different. Talking about, I'm talking about in terms of conservative, Orthodox, Reform, right? There was no terminology. You were just Jewish. You were just Jewish. You were just Jewish. Reform came along in the 19th century and said, we are going to reform. What does the word reform mean?
Bring up to date, change.
We are going to update. We're going to change. We're going to
modernize.
Modernize. Thank you. We are going to change and modernize, and we are called Reform. So then the people who were not Reform said, well, they've got a term to describe themselves. We need a term to describe ourselves to make it clear that we're not them. And so they said, we are
Orthodox.
What does the word Orthodox mean, Jackie?
Kosher.
Well, that's what's its roots? What do the words mean? What does ortho mean? Think about your teeth. You go to the orthodontist. What does he do for you?
Mouth.
Not original. No. What does an orthodontist do to your teeth?
Straighten.
Correct. He straightens them. The word ortho means straight. What about orthopedic? What does an orthopedic surgeon do if you break your leg?
Straightens it.
Straightens it out for you, sticks a plate on it and makes it nice and straight, right? The word ortho is Greek, maybe Greek or Latin, Greek, I think, for straight. Dox. What's the origin of the word dox? Comes from the word doctrine. What's a doctrine?
Religious state.
Go on.
Religious way of doing things.
Yeah, a religious
Statement.
belief.
Belief, yeah.
So what is orthodox? Straight belief. Belief which is straight, as opposed to reform, which the Orthodox say is crooked, right? So along came Reform, named themselves Reform. Orthodox then came along and said, well, we need a name. We're going to call ourselves Orthodox because we have the correct and straight belief. And then came along another group and said, well, we're not Orthodox. We agree with this changing stuff, but not as much as them, not as much as Reform. So we are going to be a little bit more conservative in the way we change things. And that's where the term conservative came from. So now you have your three terminologies. First, there was Jewish. And after there was Jewish, there was Reform. As a result of Reform, there had to be Orthodox. Along came conservatives and said, I don't want to be Orthodox and I don't want to be Reform. I want to change, but I don't want to change as much as them. So I'll change, and I'll change in a rather conservative way. Oh, that's a good name. Let's call ourselves conservative. And if you apply the English method, if you like, traditional, Masorti, it's the same thing. Compared to Reform, Masorti is more traditional. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's called Masorti. It's called traditional. So there you have a little lesson in the terminology. We will stop there because we're out of time. And I, Belinada, on Friday morning, will do one of my 90-second short videos on the terminology of Jewish groupings, because I think that will be something that people don't know about and would be interested in. So there you go. What have we done today? Not much. We have learnt about how much a king can have money and what he can have money for and what he shouldn't be doing with it. We learnt about some Greek words. We learnt about Orthodox, Reform and Conservative. I can't even know how we even got onto that. And we learnt about copies of the Torah. We started on copies of the Torah. Next week, please God, we will carry on looking at what the writing of the Torah is all about. Jackie will do some homework and find out whether he has to write the whole Torah or just a few bits of it. And if it's just a few bits of it, Jackie, I want your proof for it, please. And you're not allowed to ask ChatGPT, or if you do, you've got to check your sources.
I haven't got ChatGPT.
Right?
No.
Okay, even better. And next week we'll carry on talking about the king and writing himself a Sefer Torah, or in fact, 2 copies of the Sefer Torah, which is what we will see next week. So before I stop the recording, are there any questions on today's rather eclectic collection of learning?
Very interesting.
Very good.
Okay, we'll stop the recording.